Hello Wolfpack, I thought I'd do a little battle report here, a little update as to what's going on in Bitcoin, because we've had a pretty turbulent last few days, especially when you're looking at shorter time frames, right? We have the 15-minute chart here. You can see that within what have we got, like 6 hours, 12 hours? We had a massive spike to the upside and then a massive dump, right? But it wasn't actually that big. That's the main point of this video. It wasn't actually that big of a drop. And I think that it's starting to play out, and what I've noticed is the bigger numbers are starting to get to people, okay? Because a 10% rise when we were down at 40k is only a $4,000 rise. A 10% rise here at 60k is a $6,000 rise. So the numbers are getting bigger, the percentages are still the same, and so people are getting more, psychologically affected by those percentages, whereas what they should be focusing on is actually the dollar value. Looking at the chart, on a longer term scale, it's pretty obvious that actually nothing really too concerning has happened at all, right? Not only are we holding this trend line, this trend line that's been playing out here since over a month ago, we're holding that trend line, we're still holding it to the upside. We're also holding a bit of a shorter term trend line, and we've actually retested it quite beautifully. So let's make that white and we can see this a bit clearer. But this line here, right, this white line that I've just drawn here, we're holding that. We actually came back down and retested it perfectly, and we're bounced off to the upside. So I really I made this video, and I know making a whole video just to say this one thing is a bit counterlogical or something, but the point of the matter is that I don't really understand where all this fear is coming from, and my best speculation, as I said, is it's coming from people thinking in dollars rather than in percentages, because right now this drop, and I know it's been sizable, but it's only been a drop of 10%, 8% actually, so thinking about that logically, it's nothing to be too concerned about. But the reason, again, is because of the numbers and the percentages being dramatically different as the price goes higher, and also because altcoins get absolutely crushed every time Bitcoin drops. Think about that. Altcoins are dropping double every time Bitcoin drops. And I want to point up one more thing in this video before I get into what I think is going to happen for the rest of the month, and that's what's happened previously. And first of all, we're still on track, right? We're still perfectly on track for our target of 113k by January the 6th. I will expect the end of this month to be very bullish, right? November's are typically very bullish months, and the only reason we saw this drop, by the way, is because, well, we had the US releasing their official their official inflation numbers about 12 hours ago now, and we saw a big green candle to the upside, and then immediately after that, a few hours after that, we had some Evergrande news that came out, and basically there was multiple different media sources that said Evergrande's actually defaulting on all debt and it's collapsing, and then there was other ones that said it's actually made the payments, and so there's a lot of conflicting information even now about what's actually happening there. And that's caused some confusion with the price action, and hence we're seeing a kind of stagnation in this area. But it hasn't been too long yet, so it's nothing to be concerned about. But that's why we dropped, right? We had a massive pump, and obviously as we had the the inflation rates come out, which are exponentially higher than what they were actually targeting, by the way, but that's a different topic for a different video. The point of the matter is, as inflation goes up, Bitcoin goes up, right? That's a general theory, all right? And that's what happened yesterday. But when those inflation numbers were released, obviously a lot of people jumped into high leverage trades, and then they all got liquidated, and then it caused a chain reaction, and we dropped down more than we should have, right? And that's why leverage is not necessarily a good thing when used like that, right? If you're going to use leverage, you have to be very, very experienced, and you should use a very low amount of leverage. It's my personal opinion. Any high leverage is basically just gambling. I mean, look at these wicks, right? We don't even have to get into this right now, but I'm just going to do it. Look at these wicks, right? Look at these massive wicks that we've seen. Imagine if you were a leverage trader, every time this would happen, you'd be getting liquidated, right? It's just not worth it, because the market does act, it acts normally, right? Those liquidations are very normal. Their shakeouts are very normal, but, they're unpredictable. You can't predict when a massive shakeout's going to happen to the T, right? You can predict, hey, it might be happening soon, but, something like that, something like these massive wicks to the downside, they happen within 10 minutes and they're all the way back up at the previous prices. So it's literally just to shake out the leverage traders. And we're seeing very, very high funding rates as well. And, there are some interesting things happening around the leverage market, but my general advice to a lot of people, especially if you're new to the market, and obviously this isn't advice, it's my opinion, is don't leverage trade, right? Don't leverage trade. Crypto, especially in a bull market, is a place in which you can make 10x in a couple of weeks if you make the right trade. Why do you need to have more than that? It's just greed driven, in my personal opinion. But that's why we had the shakeout, massive amount of leverage, and also the Evergrande stuff. But getting into what actually happened and what the date is, and this is the daily chart right now, we're on 2013, and why this is relevant in cyclical theory. Well, what happened in 2013 on the 10th of November? We had a massive shakeout, right? And we dropped down massively to the downside. We dropped down, 25% in one daily candle, and then we just continued the upwards trend, right? What happened in 2017? Well, on the same day in 2017, we had a few red days in a row, and then we continue to the upwards trend. So, realistically, we're not actually doing anything significant at all. In fact, this is actually what we would have expected to happen, because, as you guys know, I'm a big believer, and I think that cyclical theory is possibly one of the most important thing you need to learn if you're getting into the cryptocurrency market. And seeing as this has happened in the last 2 cycles at the exact same date, it doesn't concern me at all, this drop. What would concern me is if we drop below this bottom trend line, right? Then I'd start to get a little concerned. And then if we drop below 60k, that's when I get concerned, because I don't want to be making lower lows this deep into the cycle. If we start making lower lows, that might be a signal that, hey, maybe something's not going right. But right now, we look fine, really. We do look fine. And, as for news, like Evergrande news and things like that, you guys know that's coordinated, right? Why do you think it's happened? Why do you think we've had this red candle at the same time in 2013 and 2017? Do you think it's just a coincidence? No, it's because the news is coordinated, right? And people don't like to believe this because it gets a little bit more conspiracy theory-ish, but, you have to understand that these big companies, big institutions, whatever they may be, that are manipulating the market to make it look the same as previous cycles, they control when the news is released. It's like that China FUD we had a while ago where China banned Bitcoin. That news was actually released multiple weeks before that, but it was suppressed and it was only released into the mainstream media on that day because that's the specific day they wanted Bitcoin to drop, right? So you have to understand that, yes, this news isn't made up, it's not fake, but they control when exactly it's released and, at what point in the market it's released. And you have to understand that they do have a certain amount of power, and that's why we're seeing this cyclical theory play out. On top of that, we have human emotions and human psychology. If it's happened once, it's got to happen again, right? And that's another reason, but I think the main reason would be the manipulation. But honestly, to kind of conclude the video, and I know I haven't talked about much in terms of technicals in this video, but there's not really much to talk about, right? In terms of technicals, we're still actually, and this is another way to look at it, right? We can go to the daily chart here. We're still above the previous all-time high on Bitcoin, right, in terms of closes, right? I reckon, we did wick up, right? Let's actually move this upwards. We did wick to the upside, right? So I guess the all-time high was at 64, around this region. But the point of the matter is we're still, basically above our all-time high that was present until a couple of weeks ago. And the fact that people are bearish in this price region is incredibly, interesting to say the least. I understand that people want to get a move on. It is peak bull markets, so people want to get back into the action. I completely sympathize with that. And I think that, if we go another week or two and we're still in this region, that's when you start to get concerned, because that's when you start to see that, hey, maybe this is a rounding top. But as of current, we're literally just following the cyclical theory. I would say that if we get to December, right, the 1st of December, and we're still in the 60k region or below, I'd say that's a pretty good indicator that we could be seeing either a break of the 4-year cycle theory or a bear market, but we're not at that point yet. We've still got plenty of time, and everything's happening as planned by the looks of it. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.